Hey folks, it's Sam, and this is the March 2025 forecast where I'm going to be outlining the eclipses and cataclysmic shifts, the far-reaching consequences that are ahead. There's Saturn moving into Pisces by the end of the month. There's the continuing Jupiter-Venus exchange, solar eclipse, lunar eclipse, all kinds of stuff. And there's, the calendar that we're going to be going over, as you see here. Thanking my friend Casey Scott for the calendar. We'll have a link to that, but this is going to be a huge month ahead. And of course, I have a member site where you can also get more specific, focused forecasts for your sign. Both each week, I do overviews, and also, as you see, I've already done a March forecast, deep dive into each day, and also the recent new moon in Aquarius, which just happened. So all of that is ahead in this video. So first, though, if you like the content, please subscribe to the channel and get notified by ringing the bell so you get updates. And of course, make sure to leave a positive comment. Let me know that you liked the video because that really helps. So as you see, we're going to start off here. And it says very correctly, eclipses, cataclysmic shifts, far-reaching consequences in the month ahead. And again, if we look to the end of the month, we see that by the end of the month, both Sun and Mercury will have gone into Pisces and Saturn as well. As we start the month of March, Sun and Saturn are still in Aquarius, but again, this is a long-term shift with Saturn going into Pisces for the next couple years, which will happen this month. So it's not only that we have the Pisces eclipse, but then Saturn is going to come in behind it and fortify that aspect of life. So everything feels in transition right now, and it is. But by the end of the month, we're going to have to get this certainty, this kind of, earth beneath our feet, because things are shifting and changing in ways that we can't really predict. And we're having to let go of certain aspects of our life that aren't coming back. So as we start here in March 1st, I'll go by the calendar here that Casey Scott has put forth. Casey was one of my certification course students, and then he's done a lot of great work on his own. And this is, as you see here, the example that we have first that we start with is Mercury and Rahu conjunction here. This is Saturday, March 1st, and then Venus also begins retrograde. So again, Mercury just moved into Pisces, and then Venus turns retrograde also in Pisces. This is going to be going on. The Mercury retrograde goes on really for the entire month, close to the entire month. It's about 3.5 weeks. And the Venus retrograde goes for the whole month, right? So having all of this Pisces energy, and particularly the Venus retrograde, means now we're going to be really reflecting on the agreements that we make, the places where we find comfort, happiness, joy, beauty, trying to elevate those things into the transcendent state, into that state of awareness that is beyond just other people and romantic partnerships, romantic entanglements. Instead, we are trying to elevate into that sort of stratospheric level, right? But there can be a lot of escapism, a lot of, again, not wanting to face what's happening. There's a lot going on in the world right now, and a lot of not wanting to face what's happening. We're having some very consequential things happen with global alliances shifting, especially with the U.S. president acting a certain way, a lot of not wanting to see and face the consequences of, for example, the last election or whatever. Some people might think it's great what's happening, others might not. But either way, things are dissolving, as we can see. And we might want to just tune it all out. And that Venus exalted in Pisces is emblematic of that. I'll just tell myself a pretty story. It's all working out. it's all happening for our greater good. And I'm not saying it isn't, but in the meantime, there's a lot going on where a lot of people's greater good isn't being served. And it's very easy to not want to face things. This is the difficulty of the Venus exalted in Pisces, is we just want to escape. But we can escape into beautiful things, into creative things, into divine connection. And that's also really possible and powerful now, particularly as Venus is also exchanging with Jupiter. As you can see here, this is still going on for the whole month, this Venus exchange with Jupiter in Taurus. So again, Venus going retrograde at the beginning of the month is going to really anchor that need to bring the Venus desire for beauty, take it out of the fantasy realm and bring it into the reality realm, particularly the daily habits, routines, those kinds of things of Taurus, right? So again, that retrograde begins right at the beginning of the month, right? And then for the next week or so, in fact, really until the 12th, we don't have any other shifts. We don't have any other changes, big changes or big conjunctions that are happening. It doesn't mean nothing happens. The moon keeps moving and planets keep sort of ticking away. But Sun and Saturn conjunction in Capricorn happens where they come together exactly at the end of Aquarius on the 12th of March. And this is right before the sun goes into Pisces. So again, there's a lot of this Aquarius Pisces energy happening right now, where as I'm recording the video here on March 1st, Sun and Saturn are in Aquarius. And it's powerful because Saturn is also the ruler of Aquarius, and the sun is that light, that power. So still a lot of Aquarius energy at the beginning of March. But then again, as you see by the end, both of them have moved into Pisces. But here we start seeing them coming together at the end, in the end of Aquarius. Sun-Saturn conjunction at about 28 degrees Aquarius on the 12th of March. So again, as we're building up to it, there's a lot more of this seriousness, concentration of power, concentration of energy that we are needing to face. Again, the seriousness is coming, the encroaching seriousness. And then we have this lunar eclipse in Leo, Uttar Falguni, excuse me, with the sun in Pisces. So again, the lunar eclipse that's happening actually takes place in Leo, even though even though Ketu is in Taurus, and understand this is like at 29 degrees and 46 seconds of Leo. So it's practically Virgo, but the actual eclipse really starts in Leo. So again, this is, and the sun is changing signs that day. It's literally 29 degrees, 45 seconds, 46 seconds using Lahiri and Amsha. So this lunar eclipse is right on the cusp of Leo and Virgo. That's where the moon is being eclipsed, right? So again, when we have this lunar eclipse, obviously I'll be doing an update, and I will also tell you, I will also tell you that the members who join at the examiner level, it's only $9.99 a month, wind up getting that eclipse for their sign. That's what the membership levels are about, because it's going to be different for each person based on your sign. Like for me as Gemini, that's going to be in between my 3rd and 4th houses, right? And the solar eclipse in Pisces will be in my 10th house. But if you're a Scorpio, that's between your 10th and 11th houses, this lunar eclipse in Leo. So again, this is incredibly important for you to understand how these shifts are going to be affecting you. So all you do is just click join below the video, and there's a pop-up where you can do that. So this will be an Uttar Falguni also, which is related to the god of contracts and official, business, things like that. So, again, very important shift that's happening here, this lunar eclipse in Leo, even though Ketu is in Virgo. It's mostly a Virgo and that house influence, but the fact that the eclipse is happening in the other sign means there's this trade-off between, or this dialogue between the Leo and Virgo. It's again very important to understand this shift, and these contracts, these sliding contracts are big. So then Mercury retrograde begins on the 15th, and that's in Pisces. So again, now the Mercury retrograde cycle begins. I think up here I said, yeah, for some reason I said Mercury retrograde up here. It's not. Mercury and Rahu conjunction. Excuse me if I made that mistake. Yeah, the Mercury retrograde begins here on the 15th and then lasts into the next month. But so Mercury retrograde in Pisces here begins on the 15th. And of course, it's easy to say, okay, Mercury retrograde, it's in a debilitated sign and it's retrograde. It's also joined Venus retrograde, who is exalted. So you have an exalted and debilitated dual retrograde happening right before an eclipse. So again, instead, we want to make it so complicated that we can't see straight. It just means that when things are retrograde, we're reflecting on what they mean. And again, this whole need to sort of dissolve, because it's Pisces, our sort of previous interpretations and whatnot. Again, for Venus, it's kind of easy. For Mercury, it's hard because we want things to make sense. Venus doesn't really want things to make sense. Beauty doesn't make a lot of sense, right? But we want our money and our words and words people tell us, we want that to make sense. That's what Mercury is, communication. So it's a confusing thing, and maybe you'll have to be looking at other ways of understanding things more intuitively, a sort of, again, deeper intuitive communication with other parts of your consciousness. So that's always possible with everything astrologically, and with Pisces, it's being in communion with your own sort of transcendent nature. That's what Pisces is. And if you can exist in that world of not being in control of everything that's happening in the outer world, then the Pisces time can be incredibly transformative, where you can shed and let go of unreality. So the Mercury retrograde within that context is just showing where you can let go of these ideas and communication styles and stories that aren't really serving you very well. So again, that's happening within the context of the Venus retrograde. Rahu is there, etc. And then we have, by the way, the sun also, I forgot, well, I did say it, but the sun goes into Pisces on that day before. So now the sun is in Pisces while this is happening as well. Then we have the exact Sun-Rahu conjunction. And then we have Mercury and Venus also work within the orb of combustion. So again, look at how much is happening here. Sun-Rahu conjunction, that's what's going to create the eclipse. So the Sun-Rahu conjunction is exact on March 17th. Again, which means that now that sense of power, worldly power, but also transcendent, soul power, because again, this is Pisces, is now getting exploded and getting, magnified by the Rahu association. And we also have Mercury and Venus both combust. They're combust and retrograde. So when they're combust and retrograde, they're actually closer to the Earth. So again, the problem of combustion is less when they're also retrograde, because they're closer to the Earth. So this is very powerful in expanding the perceptive awareness of both Mercury and Venus, right? So especially the inner expansion, the inner expansive potential here really increases on March 17th. So if there's been a lot of kind of Venus confusion around the retrograde, where it's, a kind of escapism sort of Venus, you could get some great insights after the 17th when they become combust and retrograde. So then Sun-Venus conjunction, this is the exact Sun-Venus conjunction with Venus retrograde. This is the closest that the that they pass to the Earth, and then Sun-Mercury conjunction on the 24th. So again, when they exactly join the Sun and they're retrograde, they're the exact closest to the Earth. And that's when we get the most perceptive power in the retrograde cycle. And again, retrograde is about reflecting, going inward, not having it be so much of an external force, but an internal force, which also means that we revisit things from the past, maybe people from the past, ideas from the past, and we're challenged to like shed the damaging parts or whatever, reclaim the empowering aspects of things that have been confusing. And again, because it's Pisces, there's a lot of it here. So again, I'm talking about this in a positive way, but again, if you're hanging out in ignorance and you don't meditate and you are just completely hooked into what's happening in the world, this can be very difficult. I talk about it positively, but you know, I don't drink, I don't get high, I don't do these things, I don't escape from the world. Now I have my escapist things, watching, you know, some sports or some movies and this. I have some escapist stuff for sure. We all do. But I'm talking about, but what I'm talking about though is very important, because generally, and again, this isn't judgment. This isn't saying you're bad, you're wrong, you're stupid or whatever. But things like how much, like if we're drinking, like if we drink some alcohol or we get high or we do, especially if we do it a lot, or other ways that we escape. We escape through food. We escape through, again, wanting to change our state because the world is, you know, damaging or scary to us and we don't want to feel it right now. So I'll, you know, go eat some ice cream, or I'll watch some TV, or I'll look at porn, or I'll do other things to escape. Again, we all do some of that, but if we're mixing it with things like, again, getting high, getting drunk, doing those other kinds of things in one way or another, it makes it harder, because on a certain level, our consciousness is already getting cloudy and the vibration is getting lowered by those substances, particularly if we do it every day, or that's just part of the routine, self-medicating. And again, we have ways of saying it that, again, what it's doing is it's creating a denser vibration. And what meditation is awakening from that. And again, this isn't Sam judging you, saying you're wrong doing this, because there's going to be people that are going to yell at me now going, who are you to say, but some people need it and there's nothing wrong with that. And, you know, a little wine is healthy. And I'm not judging anyone. I'm just saying this is a yogic perspective. Substances are either tamasic or rajasic, usually tamasic. They create sleep, lethargy, unconsciousness, unawareness. So again, I'm talking about this because that's the nature of Pisces. We all want to escape from the ego. We want to escape from the ego, from the burden of the ego. The ego is this false identity. You're not this person in the body who is living this life in the world. That's your incarnation in this lifetime. Pisces is the sign that is showing that. It's trying to reconnect you with that. But instead, what we do is we find some subconscious, unconscious, psychological world to live in. And by the way, I'm also going to say this too, because especially nowadays, you know, I noticed this 10 years ago, that really, like, psychology is really the religion of the West. It's not Christianity, it's psychology. And most people call spirituality, or most people call their, you know, psychology spirituality now. Most people, like, when I do readings all the time, and when I ask them, you know, about, you know, their spirituality, it's, oh, I read this, I study this. Jung is like the real guru of the West. It doesn't matter if someone is into Vedic astrology, Western astrology, whatever. Everything is Jungian. You hear Jung, and it's like everyone's ears, oh, spirituality, Jung. No, it's psychology. Okay, maybe it's spiritual psychology because Jung used archetypes and he was related to India and blah, blah. Okay, great. But it's not meditation. It's not, it's still part of the ego. And I'm sorry, it's, again, the ego isn't a bad word, but it's the illusion of separateness. And that includes your psychology. That includes your birth, your lifetime, your childhood, your mother, your, all of that emotional, psychological world is all the ego. That doesn't mean the ego is a bad thing, but that's what it is. And this is the illusion and confusion that I see so many people are under these days. So when I even talk about things like Pisces and transcendence, and people are like, "Oh, right, right." Like when I read about Jung and I feel this and I feel that, oh, the feelings, the feelings. That's not spirit. That's emotion. And emotions are part of spirit, but so is body. Body, emotions, spirit is the container of all of it. And the emotions are the portal, let's say, into letting go of them, but not through emotions, but through devotion. But devotion is not of the ego. Desire is of the ego. And the love that we call love usually isn't love. It's some desire and some attachment and some bondage. That's not the love that's connected to the spirit. That's the love that's connected to the ego. Devotion is connected to the spirit. And with devotion, there's no possessiveness. There's no need to claim something, hang on to something. That's why devotion is connected to Pisces, where we're not owning anything, not claiming anything, not saying, well, I'm happy if I get this, right? So understand this quality. So again, I went off on that a little bit because all of this now, Sun-Rahu, Sun-Venus, Sun-Mercury, it's all Pisces. And we need to understand what Pisces is. And I could say water sign, devotion, and people, again, it's like, oh, right, all those feelings I have. Those are emotions. There are elevated emotions. But devotion is the next level, and you can only access it internally. The easiest way is to have devotion to guru, to these great teachings eventually. But it's not like how you feel about this thing or that thing. Those are emotions, and they're beautiful. And devotion obviously elevates all of the emotions, and it mostly elevates them beyond possessiveness. And that's why Venus is so important here, because Venus is the possessiveness, wanting to possess some of the beauty. So, huge kind of thing. And again, like I said, Saturn is going to come in at the end and want to sort of, put down concrete. But he's trying to put down concrete on Pisces, on the water. Let me make a concrete bridge across the water. That's what Saturn's going to try to do, make things certain. So as you see, the last big shift thing that happens is the solar eclipse on the 29th in Pisces, Uttarabhadra, and Saturn also moves into Pisces. So that's at the end of the month. So again, these are huge shifts. This is the chart at the end. The chart right now looks the same, except Sun and Saturn are in Aquarius. So you see I have this image of Shiva here because that's so much about what's happening right now. We need to be like this. If you never look like this, if you never sit still and withdraw your senses from the world, again, that's spirituality. That's not the only spirituality, but again, that's very different than what feels like spirituality in the West these days, with all the psychology and all of that. This state, this yogic state, where we withdraw from the world of the senses, where we withdraw from the external world and this lifetime, where our body, mind, spirit, and ego are wrapped around, our body and ego are wrapped around spirit, and we never go deeper than that, then it's very hard with all this Pisces energy, because Pisces is where we're going to lose everything. We're going to lose it all. And we have to let go of that which is not real, as I said. So as you see, I have the screen up here as we finish. I do have all of these member forecasts ahead. I am doing a monthly satsang. That is also part of it, where I prompt for meditations that month. You could come back and watch the video every day and turn inward and say the mantras and connect with the energetic pulse of that month. That's part of the Oracle 5D level, as well as a bunch of classes and other things. But again, each week I do a week ahead based on the regular planets in the signs, and I do the Vedic week ahead. As you see, I'll be doing this week, March 3rd through 9th, based on the Vedic Panchanga. And then already available in the member site, in the member forecast examiner level, is the March forecast, a deep dive for every day. And also the new moon in Aquarius for each of the 12 signs, because all of the things, the new moons and the full moons, become very important to each individual based on their sign, whether you know it or not. So anyway, I hope this was helpful, and I hope you have a great March. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel.